All right, welcome everybody to bringing parents, grandparents, and other adults into the classroom. So we have, as we often do, a variety of teachers here from different schools, and we teach different grade levels, and this is an awesome crowd. Come on in, have more seats. I was just saying that we're recording this because some people may watch the class later tonight. So I'd like to go around the room and everybody say your name, where you teach, what ages you teach, and I'd also love to hear if you have in the past had a way that you made an intergenerational teaching that brought any adults into the classroom, and just a word or two about that. I'll start. I'm Zippy. When I got my master's degree, starting in 1991, so I'm old, I went to what was then the Cleveland College of Jewish Studies, which became Siegel College, which now doesn't exist anymore, but I've been told my master's still counts, even though school closed. And the program actually was created and focused on family education. Family education was a big thing in Jewish education, especially in the 80s and 90s, and that was the focus of my program. And so then I spent 2 years after that working specifically in family education, and when I moved to Milwaukee later, in addition to all the other things I taught at MJDS, I was the family educator for the school. So I did a family education program for every grade level every year. So I've done a lot in family ed and a lot in intergenerational education. In fact, I got an article in one of these books I brought in. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is intergenerational education, how. Sarah, you're up.
I'm Sari, and I teach K-5 at Shalom.
Have you done anything bringing adults in the classroom?
Not yet. We do have a parent ed bill coming up in something. I'm Molly Beth and teach at Gandhi Mequon and Gandhi with Bay. And in the past, I have done different programs at different preschools with excuse me, grandparents, and then when I was a program director of a synagogue in Ohio, we used to do a big Shabbat with intergenerational.
I'm Shlomi. I'm teaching with Sinai as second and third grader. And at Sinai, I think it's the second or third year, we have a program with the parents that they come in 4 or 5 times a year, and there's whole school program with the parents and the children. Sometimes we bring grandparents too. Last year it was mostly around the Shabbat. This year it's more than around the holiday. Personally, I used to do a little trip to other people houses, like in Mequon. So we would go with the parents and the children to visit the elder, and we was doing a little program together. We did it a couple of times, and I think both children and adults was enjoying that so much.
Hi, Phil Music, and I teach 6th grade at Congregation Emmanuel B'nai Yeshua. Certainly over the past 20 years, I've had numerous opportunities to bring the parents into a setting, either in a particular classroom or in the school in general. I have not brought the parents in so far this year. I did offer my new boss kind of a paradigm of what a portfolio checklist would look like if you wanted to have student-led portfolio parent conferences. So then I had a small bit of experience with that and just offered a way to structure this thing and so on. And it mostly became about kind of reviewing what you've done so far in the year, and then at least handing that out, the students would get an opportunity to sit together and say, remember when we, you know, that kind of a thing, and for the students to select items that they felt that they could offer to their parents first of all, but I haven't had the parents in really yet. That's enough of that.
I'm Nicole, I teach third grade at Shalom, and we also have a Parent Ed Day towards the end of the year. I did that last year very successfully. And even in all my years of teaching, I didn't have a lot of want to have, not on my end, on parents' side, to really come in. So I'd say the Parent Ed Day was probably one of the biggest times that we had.
I've lost my voice, so I apologize. I'm Cindy and I teach second grade at Shalom. This is only my first year there, so I do not have any experience bringing parents in or grandparents. My Parent Ed Day though is at the end of the year. Mine is coming up soon. So it's definitely something that I'm hoping to maybe get some ideas and expand it from just parents and open it up to grandparents as well, if it's something we could do.
Let me ask you real quick from our Shalom teachers. The Parent Ed Day is just grade level?
Right.
And is it run by Rabbi Rachel or run by you?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Shelley and I work here in my classroom, 3 turning 4. And I have always included parents, grandparents, family members in our classroom, whether it's activities or their input on what they want their child to learn. When I worked for MPS, I taught in alternative ed and I was a family engagement coordinator. So planning events, making sure that parents have their voices heard, and working in Head Start, families are required to participate. So just always having that family component, because not all children live with their parents. Some live with their grandparents or not. So it's always important to make sure that that child has someone represented.
It's a really important point.
I'm Lauren Collick and I teach at Ganami Mequon. I teach the ones. And just last week, we just had a discovery day with parents coming in and seeing what they've been doing so far. And last May, we had special person day come in. Grandparents or parents come in, you can have an aunt, friend, neighbor, and everybody was welcome to come in.
My name is Kurt. I work in an infant. Teach the kid about Jews, couple words, like a couple words for a small kid. So.
Kurt and I work together at Ganami Mequon. We work in the infant room, and we've always felt like Karen is really good about it when we have new kids start encouraging anybody to come. We have open door policy. And a good example would be the other day we just had a grandma came for the first time. Her grandchild is in our room and she was kind of hesitant to come because she didn't know if she would be in the way, and she had such a good time. She stayed like over an hour and then she came back the next day, and then before she left she was like, I want to take all of you home. I said, well, I'll go. You want to take us? So I mean, that was nice. So she feels warm and welcome. She, has come back since. That's good.
And Mandy, I work at Ganami Mequon with Lauren and the 1-year-old. And like she said, we had the discovery night and then the special parent night.
My name's Haley. I work with 3-year-olds here at Ganami. And when I was student teaching at MPS and working with Arts and Lodge, we had our kids put together like exhibits, and we would have exhibit nights where parents would come in, grandparents would come in and check out what the kids had been working on the fall semester. And the kids really got to teach their parents and grandparents, and then cool and really feel something.
I'm Karen, I'm the site manager at Academy in Mequon. These guys said a lot of things that we did. Last week we had Discovery Night. This is our second annual Discovery Night. Last year, instead of Muffins for Mom or Donuts for Dad, we started Morning for Mishpacha.
Nice.
Yeah, like Kurt said, we're trying to add Hebrew to our.
Well, it's also nice because it's not,
Right.
just finding a mom or a dad, it's, there's two moms or two dads, not making anybody out, whatever.
And I had to, so we planned it and then I had to look up what Mishpacha meant. So I was like, oh, I should actually know what that meant.
That's good to know.
Right. So when we find success is, so we're 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., right? So when we find success for like the morning for Misha is during drop-off. Or Discovery Night, it's during pickup. People don't want to come back afterwards, people don't want to leave their jobs in the middle of the day. So we just like to make it when can parents come and when will they be successful to spend time with their children at school.
Thank you for introducing ourselves, what grade we teach and what experience we've had bringing adults of any age into the classroom.
I'm starting late, I'm running from my job to teaching Hebrew to coming here. Bringing children, because I'm at Sinai and I teach 3rd grade, I think, 3rd through 5th. I don't, it depends on the day.
Last year especially, I had a parent in the class every year.
Yeah, and I had a child with some needs, very bright child, a lot of energy and very self-directed, maybe more than it should be. And so Dad was often in class, not always, but often. And I love that. And I actually taught a class eons ago where parents and children, every child had a parent next to them. They were learning Hebrew, that family Hebrew. And it was so amazing because many of the kids, their egos just bloom and blossom because they have to teach their mom and dad.
What school was it?
Sinai, yeah. I think it may have been one of the first classes I taught there. But I continuously ask parents to come in and stay in the class because I want them to see what the kids are learning. And I also want them to get curious enough to feel like, oh, I can stay here and I could learn this too, because they don't know. And I think would be fun. I think would add a lot to the class. So I'm still working on this. I don't know how, if ever it's gonna happen, but it would be very, very nice.
All right, thank you to all of you. And there is a wealth of experience in this room, even more than I expected, because I really didn't know how much intergenerational education was happening in Milwaukee at this point. So that's really nice to know. So I want to encourage all of you to jump in and to add to what I'm saying, because family education, I'm going to try to say intergenerational in education because I think it's a better name for it, but there are so many different ways to do it, and I don't know all of them. As we were sitting here, I had not thought about the fact that doing student-led conferences, that really is a type of family education, and intergenerational education, I wasn't thinking about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the parent.
It absolutely is.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely, and field trips, I hadn't also thought about as intergenerational education, but it is. So I am sure that as we're going through, there are gonna be a lot of things that I don't necessarily have in this PowerPoint that we're gonna come up with. I did print this out, and now looking at it, it looks very small to me, so I will also email it to you tomorrow, so if it's too small, but I didn't want you to feel like you had to take notes, and we're gonna go through a lot of information. And I hope it's not gonna get too frontal. Like I said, I really want you to jump in, and at the end, we're gonna try doing some planning together, planning on intergenerational work. All right, so I am going to share my screen up here for all of you and the people at home. So before I tell you what I've got up here, without looking at the sheet in front of you just for a minute. Why? Why is intergenerational education a good thing? Why is it good to bring adults into classrooms with kids? And I think there are lots of reasons.
I think we learn from one another and everybody has something different to bring to the table.
Absolutely, right? We learn from each other, right? There's a quote from the Talmud that you know, more than I've learned from my teachers, I've learned from my students, right? And we can all learn from each other, adults. Why else is it important?
I think it promotes community more, that I have really great parents that when they see a parent they haven't met, hi, my name is Kelly and my son is Connor. And I just like that interaction between different parents and them. And they say, oh, if you need any help, you know, learning, you know, anything about, you know, they can help out too. So I think it just promotes, you know, community.
It's such a great thing, especially in a setting like daycare where you do have people dropping off at different times of the day. It's not like when we had all these stay-at-home moms that would have play groups or go out for coffee when their kids were like, we don't have time to meet each other and brings them together. And in synagogue schools, it creates a sense of community that hopefully when they see each other at other synagogue events, I think that's really important. Yeah.
Going back to that community, last year we had a parent who was an ENT specialist. And so he took time out of his busy schedule, he works at Children's. At that time, we did have a student who was having surgery on their throat. So by that parent coming in, explaining to the kids what he does and everything like that, it made that child feel very, very comfortable having that surgery. So again, it promotes that sense of community. And ever since then, the kids call him Dr. Bob. The child was more comfortable, so.
That's great, and it also brings up the idea of adults as resources in our community, as people who've been teaching things in our school that we don't necessarily know, which is wonderful.
I like watching the interaction between the parent and the child. They're all engaged in the room.
I think especially in religious school, when the parents come to a program, it shows their interest in that area. And the kids feel like they're doing something important, so they don't just, you know, come to Sunday school or Hebrew school or whatever, feeling like they have to do it because they have to do it, because it's something the other family is including in that. So I think it's so important.
I think it really sends a message to kids that what you're learning is important and I want to learn around. All right, so here are a few answers I have. We'll add to what we're saying. Studies have shown that family is the greatest influencer of Jewish identity. Okay? This idea that you can drop your child off at a school and have the school make them Jewish, it doesn't happen. It's really what's happening in the family. And whether it's what's happening in the family at home or what's happening with the family in the school, that's what's really going to make the impact. That's what has the biggest influence. Not that campus isn't important, not that school isn't important. It's all important, but I really believe that family is the biggest influence. So it brings them into the school. What we just said, the children see that adults care about learning and about Judaism. Family time. Okay, this is a big bonus, right? Our families, our parents are so busy working all the time, right? And it's hard to find time, parents and kids together. This is a time to do family stuff together and with Jewish education. And parents and grandparents as teachers and influencers. And we're going to talk more about grandparents. And it empowers adults to be role models, and specifically Jewish role models. Sometimes adults didn't get a strong Jewish education themselves and don't feel comfortable, don't feel like they have anything to contribute Jewishly, and if they learn together with their kids, then it gives them that confidence that they can teach their kids Judaism. Okay. Anything we want to add before we go on? All right, I want to talk a little bit about grandparents. So there was a grandparent study that has been conducted recently. Not all of the findings have come out yet, but I'm giving you like a snapshot of some of it that was published in an online publication called E-Jewish Philanthropy. So they did this huge study of grandparents and And they found some stuff that really surprised the people doing the research. They found out that nearly half of the grandparents nationally have a child married to a non-Jewish partner, but they were happy to find out that 20% of them were, only 20% of them were raised in another faith home, right? So about half had children who were married to non-Jews. That's not surprising, but only 20% of them were raising them entirely non-Jewish. Yeah. And the other surprise was they had assumed grandparents and grandkids were scattered across the country, but they found out that 47% of grandparents live less than an hour away by car or train from their grandchildren. Why is that important? They're around to be part of their lives, and they can have an impact on them because they're close enough. All right. They also learned, and this was very interesting, that grandparents and grandchildren's relationships vary. That makes sense, of course. But they divided them up into these 5 categories, okay? And we'll talk about them in a minute. And they're pretty evenly divided if you just look at the percentages. Joyful transmitters, faithful transmitters, engaged secularists, wistful outsiders, and non-transmitters. Okay? And none of this is mine, this is this intellectual study. All right, so what does it mean? 23% are engaged secularists. They're really engaged grandparents, but they're not particularly modeling Jewish faith or Jewish practice for their grandkids.
Is the presumption there that when it says they don't model Jewish faith, that in fact they were raised?
Assuming that they are Jewish, right? Because
Yeah.
there's a study of Jewish grandparents. They're Jewish, however you want to define Jewish, but it's not a part of their lives in a way that they're modeling for their grandkids. Joyful transmitters, on the right, they love being grandparents and feel it's really important to transmit Jewish values and beliefs. Faithful transmitters, they really want their grandchildren to have a strong connection to Judaism and to marry Jews. That's their priority. They want them to grow up Jewish and marry Jews. Wistful outsiders, they want to be more involved with their grandchildren, but the family dynamics get in the way. Right, grandparents and parents don't get along so well, or maybe parents don't want the grandparents to have this Jewish influence, but there's something, it's actually really sad to think about, to think 20% of grandparents really want this relationship with their grandkids and can't have it. And non-transmitters, they're not Jewishly engaged, and they're not so interested in passing Jewish practice on to their grandchildren. So it was really interesting to see that they kind of split up. So what do we learn from this? I think what we learn is that grandparents are an important audience for family education, for intergenerational education, right? We should definitely bring in parents as well, but often it's the grandparents who are responsible for the Jewish education of families, especially in interfaith families, right? Often it's grandparents who are paying for Sunday school or synagogue membership or camp or day school because it's important to them. So they say to their kids, we'll pay for it if you'll do it.
And bar and bat mitzvah.
And bar and bat mitzvah and whatever it is. And so the grandparents may really want an opportunity to be involved. And so if when these family education or intergenerational programs happen, and you can open it up to grandparents as well, and to other adults who are in their family, and we want to make sure we remember that, right? During the day might not work for parents, but it might work for grandparents. When my youngest, Golan, who's 12 now, was at Jewish Beginnings in the infant room, there was a woman, a grandmother-age woman, who volunteered there every day, and she came in for like 2 hours a day and just held the babies. And I decided when I retire, that is what I'm doing. I'm just gonna go and hold babies for 2 hours a day. And she held them, and then when it was time to change them or if they're fine, she passed them on. It was really great. You know, these grandparents have a lot to offer. All right, questions or comments, especially comments about grandparents and trying to bring them into the classroom.
Well, I know at Jewish Beginnings, they have like a grandparents' day, that's just for grandparents to come in.
Yeah.
So it's pretty popular.
And they always try to be sensitive about this. I think a lot of schools do it. Sometimes they call it Special Friends Day
Yeah.
in order to not make a kid
Oh, right.
feel bad and they
It's
don't
not,
have a grandparent living in town or a grandparent who's living. But just because we're calling it Special Friends Day doesn't mean you can't target grandparents and really try and bring them in. And I think that what you said, Shelley, earlier about making sure that every child has somebody. Is it you that? That you don't want the kid to feel left out. I actually was at a program a couple of years ago, I was observing a program, and every single kid in the room had an adult except one. And it was an older kid, and the kid was like in 3rd or 4th grade, but it was breaking my heart. It was just breaking my heart to see this kid by themselves. So it's really important.
You know, I think today, I'm certainly seeing more involvement of grandparents in children's lives. I mean, I grew up at a time when most of the moms didn't work. Nobody had to be dropped off to grandma on a regular basis or picking up kids from school or anything. We walked home, the whole thing. Now I see where grandparents at the chauffeur, you know, Uber, Lyft, where the grandparents are picking up the grandkids from activities and things, because there might be multiple settings that the parents have to be at, where they're working and so on. So in a way, there's opportunities to connect to, have contact with grandparents, maybe a little more regularly in some cases.
It's a beautiful thing.
If I could just also say something a little bit different. I think the grandparents are amazing in schools. This is a little bit different. When my mother was not doing so well, who lived in Cleveland, I brought her to Milwaukee for a visit, and she stayed, I think, maybe 2 weeks. And I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do with her? I didn't know what I was going to do with her when I'm working full time. And I asked at the Jewish day school if they needed a volunteer. And so they did need a volunteer, and they needed a volunteer in the kindergarten room. My mother was never a teacher. She was a seamstress, but she was very playful always. So during that 2 weeks that she was here, she went every morning to the Jewish day school. There were pictures that she brought home from family members and from the teacher. And she told me that this was the most amazing experience of her life. And what happened was, when she went back to Cleveland, guess what she did? She found herself a volunteer position doing that. And her life changed.
I've seen some amazing things with seniors and
Very
kids.
healing for seniors to work with children. It doesn't always work, but
Mequon Jewish Preschool has a program together with Ovation Communities where they go once a month and bring their kids, I think it's the 3 and 4-year-olds, to mostly to visit the seniors at Ovation, but sometimes the seniors from Ovation come to the school and they are paired with somebody. And so they really develop a relationship with someone that they see, you know, month after month after month. I think WITS and TAM also have something where they go, the high school kids, they go regularly. It's a beautiful thing when we can get, not necessarily the grandparents of the kids, but seniors involved. It's good for the kids and us. All right, one of the other things I want to do, instead of just talking the whole time, is I'm going to show you a couple of videos. These are actually from New York, of programs that have been started. These are mostly in supplementary schools that have different models for Sunday school that involve families. So Shabbat Shalanu at Sinai is one of those different kinds of models, right? They once a month, instead of regular Sunday school, they have a family program. What percentage of the families do you think come when it's Shabbat Shalanu?
It's kind of sad.
it depends.
As a core family, they come every time, but I really wish to see more.
Right, so some of them probably think of it as this is a week off of Sunday school. So I just thought we would watch a couple of videos of some different models. So this one is from Rye, New York.
My name is Rick Abrams. I'm the director of Jewish Family Life at Community Synagogue of Rye. And part of my job is to run the Chavarah program. Chavarah is an alternative to the Hebrew school program. It's an opt-in program. There's no predetermined curriculum for Chavarah,
which almost flies in the face of all the philosophy around learning that people at least come to the table with already.
Kids had lots of questions and ideas, and that instead of being on a rigid curriculum track, that we would just go with those ideas.
You know, I've taught Hebrew school in the past, and although I've always loved Jewish education, the structure of it, this is your curriculum and this is what you have to teach, whether or not the kids are interested in it, is not something that totally aligns with my philosophy.
We also wanted them to have experiences beyond what we could do in a classroom environment that bring meaning to the learning.
Families make a commitment to get their kid to an alternative site once a week.
My son is the type of child who really didn't love going to religious school. We basically told him that's not an option, you're going to Hebrew school. The fact that he's able to drive the topics along with his friends, it's an integral part of what's making the Jewish experience important for him.
It's not quantitative, it's qualitative. For my child who's been involved with Chavurah, he's created these bonds and these relationships with kids that he might not otherwise have done so. And because he's in people's homes, he feels a sense of safety. The other adults feel a sense of connection to him that might not have otherwise been the case had my child been in a regular classroom.
In Chavurah, I feel like you can talk to your teacher and your peers more easily because it's fun to be in a small group of kids where you can have a conversation and really be able to express what you're thinking. And it's also fun to visit new places and see how they relate to Judaism.
Attendance at Chavurah is not an issue. Like, kids are upset when they can't make it to Chavurah.
Again, their enthusiasm and curiosity for things is really just really amazing.
And for me to then expand on it and show her how the Jewish values that she's learning in Chavurah are playing out either at home or in school or in other activities that we do as a family.
We were able to create a program that has had all sorts of ancillary benefits. Because when you have 300 kids in a religious school or 500 households, it's very hard to be one monolithic community. So you understand you have communities within that community. And the way of doing Chavurah is a way of allowing that to happen. The adults have formed relationships and bonds.
All of us are essentially outliers from the main group that makes up the membership of the synagogue. For me in particular, it's been a very unique situation because I'm not the parent, I'm the grandparent. So for some of these parents to be so open with me and listening to some of what I need to share or I have the experience to share has also been very nice. I believe that there should be as many options as there can be for as many different learning styles as there can be.
It's really exciting and fun to be part of a program that is so different from every other synagogue I've ever worked at.
I do hope long term that the kids remember Hebrew school as a positive experience for them.
I just think that it's a great model that we can use to jazz up people's love of Judaism in their synagogue life.
What would happen? No, what would happen if you did something like this that was outside of the synagogue model? For families who are not
I can tell
dancing.
you that the kids in the schools, you know, as much as I love teaching, I know that we really never really learned like we should have, you know, because we had all kinds of other things that were going on, and I think that there's other ways to do this. I think that there really is other ways to do this.
So, all right, so there's an idea. So we'll talk some more. We're gonna see another video, but not right away. I want to talk about different formats for family ed. I'm going to give you a bunch of them, but then I want to see what we add together, because my guess is that I've missed them. Okay? So, and I'll talk about what each of them are. Parallel learning. Parallel learning is when you get kids and parents together and they both learn the same thing separately, right? So you bring in parents, you bring in kids, they both have a lesson about Havdalah. And then maybe at the end come together and do something about Havdalah. But they do some learning that is separate, right? There's a teacher, maybe a rabbi or whoever, teaching the adults, there's somebody teaching the kids, and then maybe, or maybe not, that they come and do something together. Okay? Adult-child chavruta. Molly Beth, you want to tell everybody what chavruta is? Since you can do so much of it in Mina this year.
Texting and small groups.
Okay, so it's when you work together. Chavruta comes from the word chaver, which means friend. If you've ever seen video of a yeshiva, a classic yeshiva, where higher learning for like teenagers, usually teenage boys or adults, learn together, you see two people sitting together with a piece of text and studying it together, and often yelling and getting very involved and very intense about it. But chavruta does not just have to happen in yeshiva, and it can happen with the text, but it doesn't just have to happen with the text. One of the most beautiful examples of chavruta, adult child chavruta that I personally was involved with is one year my synagogue did for the Tikkun Leil Shavuot, which is when you stay up all night learning on Shavuot. They did it child and parent study together. And they had 2 levels. They had one for like older kids and then one for younger kids. And they had some text and the parent and kids sat together and they read it and they discussed it. And I watched, I'm pretty sure it was my husband and my youngest, who I think at the time was like 6. And I watched them sitting and learning together. It was so beautiful. I also like learning with my other kids, but it can be a really beautiful thing. And it can be on whatever level. You know, it can be as simple as an adult reading a book to a kid, but you give them some guidance, right? Often with Hebrew, you want to start with a text, you give them a text, and you have some questions for them to discuss. Okay, that's adult childhood. Adult child self-guided learning, okay? This is when you set up some learning that's gonna happen, and then you tell the parents what they're gonna do, and they're going to do it. It could be, you're gonna read the story and discuss it. It could be, here's an art project you're gonna do. One of my favorite ones I used to do in 6th grade at MJDS. And they created a family ethical will. And there was a series of questions that they had to discuss, and as they came up with answers, they had a big Jewish star, and they had to fill in different areas with this information that they discussed. Literally, all I did was introduce the thing, give them the instructions, and let them go. And afterwards, parents would tell me that they had conversations with their kids, especially 6th graders, right, who don't talk so much to their parents, that they never would have had
It's a
otherwise.
pretty heavy conversation.
It is pretty heavy conversation, but it was good stuff. It was really good stuff.
So maybe what is the difference from the first one?
The chavruta is really focused on text, right? The adult child self-guided learning, it could be an art project, it could be, you know, it could be creating a skit, it could be lots of different things. They are definitely related. Small group learning, okay? Also similarities, but you can put together some groups. You can have 3 adults and 3 kids working together and doing some kind of activity or learning together. Could be kids with their parents, or could be kids with other people's parents. Sometimes, again, substitute in grandparents, special friends, any other adults for any of these. Hands-on activities, right? A lot of family education, a lot of intergenerational education is very hands-on, right? Get together and play this game or make this art project, or very hands-on. Project-based learning, okay? Then that's you really have to be thinking about something that's more ongoing, maybe something like Shabbat Shalmanu, where you could start a project and over the course of the year, there are pieces that are getting done, you know, each time. Adults sharing knowledge with kids. We talked about that with the tonsillectomy, right? Right? Having an adult come in and teach the kids, and it could be a parent or grandparent in the class, or it could just be somebody from the congregation, right? You have somebody from the congregation that's an expert in whatever it is, and they come in and share with the class. Telling family stories. Having a chance where you bring adults and kids together and you ask the adults to tell a family story to the kids. Actually, I read an article recently, I really liked this article, that said children who adults in their family tell them family stories on a regular basis, the kids are more resilient than kids who don't hear that. I came home and I said to my kids, see, there's a reason I tell you all these stories. Telling family stories, I think a long time ago used to be much, much more common. I don't know that it happens as much today. People are so busy with their phones and videos and like everything else that sometimes I think you get away from it. But your family stories, whatever they are really valuable.
What do you mean by they're more resilient?
So what they said was telling family stories, especially stories where maybe something was really hard and the family got through it, teaches children that that's okay. You know, when I think back to my own life, when I ended up having to leave MJDS after 13 years, and for 3 or 4 months didn't know what I was going to do next, it was one of the hardest things I ever went through. And my 2 older kids were middle school, high school age. And they had gone through MJDS, and it was like our family, and it was hard for the whole family. But I kept saying to them, this is gonna work out. I don't know how it's gonna work out, but there's a reason this is happening, it's going to work out. And eventually, thank God it did. I can call it my job now. It's like the best job I've ever had. But I think them seeing me go through that, I hope gave them the message that when something really hard happens, You've got to just work your way through it and it can lead to something good. That's a story I will tell my grandkids someday. That way. Hearing those stories is important, whether it's a job loss or a death in the family, but also just hearing regular stories, just day-to-day life and how you handle things. The happy times and the sad times, all of it is really good for kids, which makes a lot of sense to me, but reading it in an actual study would be great. All right, Shabbatonim and family retreats. They don't happen all that often in Milwaukee. No, Chabad of Mequon does one.
CBI
is doing one this year. I think SIDA has done some in the past, maybe. It was one of the things I did when I told you I was working at Family Ed full-time in Cleveland when I was there. They have a full-on Jewish retreat center that plans retreat centers for Jewish organizations all over the city. And I planned several synagogue family retreats. They're amazing. They're amazing. You take a whole family together away from daily life. I mean, when I was running them, that was before, cell phones and all that. But even today, to get people to put away their phones and to stop working for a weekend and really just focus on their kids and each other. And a family retreat or Shabbaton usually has multiple types of learning. This parallel learning and this group to study and their hands-on activities. There's all sorts of different learning going on, but they're amazing. I know that my two older kids, I think Sadai's done it. I know that for a while, Rainbow Day Camp did like a Camp Bubby Zadie. My kids went on it with my grandparents. My two older ones were the little, I don't know that it's continued. We still have the t-shirts.
Interlocking is
Family camp is like another example of it. And people who go to family camp swear by it.
Yes.
And it's actually a really cool thing because you've got a whole vacation plan. You know how much it's going to cost in advance and you've got it planned and whatever. Very powerful. Okay, we've talked a lot. One of the things we heard a lot here was Grandparents' Day, Special Friends Day. It can be whatever we're talking about, mommy brunch or daddy brunch or mishpacha, what did you call it? Morning for mishpacha. Any of these days where we get adults to come into the kids' classrooms, it's fun for kids to show the adults in their lives where they are and what they do. And it's nice for the adults to see it as well. So for sure. And this could be like the family that we were talking about also. They can be one time or they can be ongoing, right? Shabbat Shalom is ongoing. I think a lot of these other ones we're talking about are one and done. Field trips. Okay, I didn't have that on here. We were talking about field trips are a great example, right? There's a lot of learning that comes on field trips. And I'm not talking about just one or two parents being a chaperone, but a field trip that's really for adults and kids together and focused on. And they can be a lot of locations. They can be at school, they can be in people's homes, they could be in public spaces. There's a lot of public space stuff, right? Like when they do for Hanukkah, they do building the menorah at Home Depot, like that kind of thing. I'm sure that
CBINT does one where they have families go to the Jewish Museum. And they're, like, it's one of the Sundays, right?
Yeah,
And they
a lot of
go
high
and
schools
do
go
that.
to that.
And they do one with parents and grandparents.
PJ Library does a lot of them, right? Where they get the kids and the parents together. So there are lots of examples of it. Sometimes doing these family programs or these adult intergenerational programs outside of a synagogue space or even outside of a school space is less threatening, right? Adults and kids who come together for the big Hanukkah thing here at the JCC. There are people who probably come to that. We don't go into any other Jewish organization. But coming to a Hanukkah thing at the JCC, that's not threatening. All right, what did I miss in terms of formats? Anything coming to mind that we didn't put up here?
Pretty thorough.
Okay, good. All right, we're going to take a look at another New York.
What we have a mitzvah program, mitzvot that families would do that were part of the school curriculum. And so we wanted to reach out to families. One thing that families might find meaning in were doing mitzvot with their children. So we're trying to really bridge the gap between the families and the children and the congregants who are established congregants who are here all the time, but never the twain met. This family wanted to find a way to remember their mother and grandmother who had died. And so the fact that she thought to come to the Hebrew school and sponsor a program was really wonderful.
Since the grandmother liked celebrating Shabbat, we made challah boards.
They make it a great place for families to come together.
We're a lot more active as a family than we were, when I was growing up. There are a bunch of families that we've become very close with. We were out to dinner last night with one of them, as a matter of fact.
The Merrick Jewish Center really brings families together, and I really enjoy coming to family services here.
I get to show them what I've learned because I can share that knowledge with my parents.
We instituted a stories program where we asked congregants to come to each Mitzvah program and tell a story that had something to do with that day. We have a congregant who is a medical student, and she met the Jews of Abayudaya in Uganda. After they listened to the speaker, they divided up into small groups, and they just brainstormed about doing mitzvot, really raising money, buying goats and chicks and medicine for the Jews of Abayudaya. So they were really searching with their kids to find ways to help their kids do something. And I think that's what we're trying to do, to make it a parent-child project.
We find them talking more and more about community service, how they can help people within the community, brainstorming how they or us as a family, how we can go about helping people in the community as an extension of what they have learned here at the Merrick Jewish Center program.
Honestly, I wasn't really involved in any temple or anything for a very long time before we joined here. My wife and I talked about it, and we said, if we're going to join, let's get involved. We'll meet some people. We can help some people. We want the kids to learn that it's not just about going to Hebrew school and learning the stuff and then you forget about it, kind of like I did growing up. I wanted to be a part of them.
The hope is that they can hold on to their religion and what they know about their religious instruction and incorporate that into their understanding about their being, about the world, the things that happen around them, both the beautiful things and the things that aren't so beautiful sometimes.
And so it's rewarding to be here. What I'm hoping to do is help Jews become Jews.
This is clearly something that is ready to do, right? MJDS has a mitzvah day, Shalom has a mitzvah day, Emmanuel, Sinai, and mitzvah, there no more. It's certainly something that has happened in different schools. I think this one is more ongoing. It's not let's do a mitzvah project once a year. This is like a regular thing, and it's an adult-child thing, not just doing the mitzvah, but doing some Jewish learning as a piece of it. I know Tikkun Ayir has been doing some stuff that's like family organized around a mitzvah project. I was actually talking to somebody recently about high schoolers, which I know is changing topic, but the numbers for BBYO are down slightly. The Reform youth groups are kind of in disarray at the moment. NCSY doesn't exist in Milwaukee anymore. USY I think is pretty strong. But what's growing? Friendship circle, right? Because they want to go out and do something. They want to go do something that's going to help other people, not just get together and hang out. And I think there are families, maybe some of the families who are not coming to activities right now, might be willing to come to do a mitzvah project, might come to do something to help. But I'm talking too much. What do you guys think? I talked too much. All right. Yeah.
No, I mean, got your word, all right, so we had parents come, I got out in Waukesha, I got the school involved with Waukesha Make a Difference. So usually that mostly involved winterizing people's yards, fall cleanup and so on. So then, you get the parents to come out, and then squads, mixture of the parents and the students would go and rake at addresses that were supplied to us. So here was an opportunity for parents and students to really be active together. It's just one time, but out there, because it was small, and some of it called the personality, but the parents were involved in lots of ways in making certain that the kids were bringing food donations to the food bin, or we would collect up toys and winter clothes in the winter time, around Hanukkah. So there were many opportunities really. Like we would have a whole school thing lighting, you know, for Hanukkah all together. And we would make certain that was done before Hanukkah so that everybody, you know, had to go dig out their Chanukiot and okay, did you have candles, although we supplied the candles, and then it's all really about practicing for Hanukkah. But then the parents would come and we would all sit together and, you know, the highlight there was everybody lighting one candle. So there's many opportunities to build parents, you know, trying to at least get your hooks in them a little bit, you know.
Terrific, thanks. All right, some advice for planning family programs. I will tell you some of the stuff I culled out of these books. It's interesting to me. These books are from the 80s and 90s, where family education was the thing in Jewish education in the 80s and 90s. You know, now it's what? It's birthright and project-based learning and student development. Like these, there's constantly the newest thing in Jewish education. I couldn't find any more recent books on family education. I looked. There's not like new stuff out there, which was interesting. All right, so here is some advice. This is, I think, great advice for any kind of program, whether it's intergenerational or not. Start with your goals before planning the activities. It's very easy to think, oh, this would be really fun to do with families, without thinking about what you're trying to achieve. Start with your goals first, and then figure out what activities meet the goals. Name tags. You know, a lot of the adults do not know each other, have name tags. You know, if you want to be fast, you can have them made already. There's actually some value in having them make it because they can own it and they can decorate it or whatever, but have name tags. Do an icebreaker. Don't just jump into whatever you're doing. Do something so that everybody can get to know each other and start to feel comfortable. Sit in a circle. Okay? If you are doing something intergenerational, do not have them sitting in rows of desks. You want them to be able to see each other and talk. Tell adults the specific plans at the beginning. Either hand it out to them on a piece of paper or have it written up on the board. Parents, any adults, their time is precious, their time is valuable. They want to know what's going to happen. They want to know what order it's going to go. They want to also know what to be expected because they may be really nervous in this new setting, and if they know what's going to happen, tell them in advance. Thank people for coming and really acknowledge that they took time to do it. A thank you goes a long way. Include a take-home piece to continue the learning and have it give it scaffolding, right? So if you do a Hanukkah program where you make a Chanukiah together, send them home with the blessings in Hebrew and English and transliteration and directions of how to light the Chanukiah and, you know, what time of day you're going to want to do it. Whatever, give them something to take home so the learning doesn't end there. You know, if it's a book, if it's a story, whatever it is, make sure there's a part 2 and scaffold it really well. Something so that they are going to feel comfortable continuing on. And I gotta tell you, just before we go on, I was with a group of women that I'm taking to Israel next week. And there were a couple of women there who their kids had been in Jewish preschools. One was Ganami, one was Jewish beginnings. One came in with the menorahs her kids had made. The other one came in with a honey plate and a honey dish. And both of them talked about, even though their kids are much older now, the holiday is not the holiday without those things. Like that has impacted their holiday celebration 10, 15 years later. In fact, one of them, the one with the honey dish, said that she and her mother-in-law were fighting over who got custody of this honey plate, the honey dish. So just in case you think it's not important. Create something lasting that they can take home. Create something that they can keep using and that they can hang up or that they've got for the future. Make it relevant to their lives, right? Something they can connect to, something that has a next step or that is connected to them in some way. Stretch. By stretch, I don't mean like Molly Best type of stretching and catch. I mean stretch like push the families a little bit, right? Don't just teach them stuff that they already know. Right? If you know that they know that Shabbat is the day of rest and they know about candle lighting and Kiddush and Hamotzi, then don't make that your whole program. If they don't know that, then great, do that. But think about who your audience is and push them a little bit more. Sometimes we try and make it so user-friendly that we don't challenge our adults, parents to think. And we should make them think. We want to do it in a way that's comfortable and safe, but we want to make them think, right? If you've got a room full of doctors and lawyers and engineers and I don't know what else, like these really, really smart, high-powered people, then we don't want the learning to be so low level that they're like, why am I here? Make it fun, so otherwise they won't want to come back. Use games, lots of games. Adults like games too. Mitzvah projects we talked about. And art and music and dance and any of the other, different senses, get them up and moving and doing. All right, what would you add to this list?
I like to sing in my classroom, so that might be fun, it might be games, it might, we got music there, so.
Singing music, yeah.
Maybe I didn't quite make it to the bottom of the list, but I like to have the parents and the students sing together.
Absolutely.
They don't always do that.
All right, I got another video.
The Mitzvah Program in particular is one of the things that really keeps me going and keeps me excited about the possibilities of Jewish education in the future.
It's a place where Jewish learning is something for everybody of all ages, for children, for parents, for grandparents, where children see their parents engaged in Jewish life and learn from the example of people who not just bring them here to drop them off, but also stay to be involved in their own Jewish lives.
Mitzvah is a family education program. Families arrive and we start with opening rituals, then we do some kind of family activity, and then we split off into what I call parallel learning. So the adults learn with me or with one of our clergy members, and the different age cohorts learns about the same thing, sort of on a different level. And then we all come back together at the end for a brief musical tefillah service.
I love that we, after a very busy week where we are all going in different directions, the four of us come together and sit together for a few hours and learn about the same thing.
It adds something to the Jewish life of the parents to have a community of people who are kind of in the same life stage as them, because the work of being a Jewish parent is a job in and of itself. The only instruction manual is the instruction manual of like Torat Chaim, like the Torah of our lives. There's like a shared life space that they're able to interact with one another in. And by like sitting down in a room together for 45 minutes every couple of weeks, we get to share the Torah of our lives with one another and to hear how this family's dealing with the same thing that this family might be dealing with, or how that one's doing it differently.
We've met people and gotten to know people on a fairly personal level because so much of Mitzvah is sharing our stories.
It's more warmth, more familial.
I think that we've seen over time that more parents are involved in congregational life because of their participation in Mitzvah.
Students in Mitzvah, even though we only see them a couple of times a month, have maybe even a higher level of commitment than the students who we see twice a week. Being a part of this program has made me feel like I could do this wherever it is that I end up somewhere down the line. And it's something that I would want to do as well.
I just think family learning is really powerful, and I would encourage any educators to consider the impact on parents and the family unit beyond just the student.
It's been a great model for us, and I think the idea of family learning is a model that can work anywhere, and I would highly encourage a congregation to consider it.
I'm not gonna talk this time. What do you think of this? What are the good things? What are the challenging things?
Just to the picture that they show the girl talking to her mom and she's listening to her. She's so excited about it. That's the best.
I just have a question. Sorry.
Be sorry.
Why, if this is such an awesome thing, is it not being done?
I don't have an answer for you. Like I said, it was like.
Or why did it stop?
Why did it stop? I don't know. I know.
Is it like is it lacking in organization, lack of parent involvement, lack of specialty, lack of time, lack of like what is missing?
I'm not sure the answer, or that it just stopped being like a thing. When I was at MJS for 13 years. And for 13 years I ran these programs. I'm gonna tell you about some of the programs. But there were parents who came and did this. We did the same thing in each grade every year, and sometimes it changed, but overall. And so there are parents who came in who had done this with like 2 or 3 or 4 kids, had done the same project every year in 5th grade. They've done this project. And when they'd come in to do it, they were so excited. They had such fond memories of doing it with that child and that child and that child. And it was I never heard parents complain about it. Like, they loved doing it, and sometimes it was grandparents, and sometimes it was a friend or neighbor. And if a kid didn't have somebody, we would pair them up with another family and they'd join in. And when I left, I remember hearing from the leadership of the school, oh, we don't need a person to be in charge of family education anymore. We're just gonna have each teacher be in charge of it for each grade. And it could be wrong, but I don't think it's happening in every grade anymore. I'm sure I don't need to be saying anything negative about JDS. They have lots of other good things happening, and I'm not taking anything away from that, but it's sort of like disappeared. Sinai is really making a good effort at it, because it's got the Shabbat Shalom. It sounds like Shalom is trying to do 1 per grade, which is great.
Like this, I think Grandma Rachel tries to involve families a lot more this year. She seems like she's trying to.
And does Shalom still do Family Hebrew, or is it gone?
I think this year it's stopped.
This year it's
different.
Shalom had Family
I
Hebrew
would
for a
say
long time.
MJDS is a family program, it's just not per grade.
It's not per grade.
I would say it's more
across the school.
as across.
Which also was really good. I really, really was not trying to.
No, I know, but I'm sitting here thinking and I'm like, it's not per grade anymore,
Right.
but it is done.
And
Indefinitely.
And Shabbat
There's
for
more.
sure, you know, and I think the preschools have a lot going on, right? They have, and I love this idea that the classrooms are just open for parents to come in. And it was, when you were saying that, I was remembering again my youngest and going into nurse when he was, because I was in the same building. So I go downstairs and nurse and just be in the classroom, you know, a couple times a day when he was really little, and that was very, very special. And I think a lot of the preschools have a lot of stuff going on.
Jewish Beginnings has stuff.
Jewish Beginnings has got a ton. Yeah. Some of it is parents being busy, right? Parents just being overprogrammed and not being able to find time. But I guess that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this today, because I do think that we've lost some of it.
We had a field trip for my son's class, and it was a joke saying there was more parents than kids there.
I think there's a hunger for it.
Yeah,
I really do.
Parents that are home, they want to
Yeah.
part of the school stuff.
But I think it's also important, like Karen was saying earlier, is like kind of meeting them where they're at.
For sure.
Because I think that that's a big piece of it. And only because we were talking about this the other day with some of my friends, is that looking at like Madeline, my oldest, who is 13 in 8th grade. And not a lot, there are many parents in that group that don't work. It's a much different dynamic than my almost 8-year-old in 2nd grade, where all of us do work. Or most of us, and you can't just take off in the middle of it. It's much harder. And it's a different, like the different dynamics. I just think things have changed over the year. And you do kind of have to meet them where they're at. And it sometimes has to be at the beginning, a drop off, or the ending, or Sunday afternoon, or whatever it is, but it's, recognizing that too.
Sure.
And sometimes as teachers, we have to step in for that child to be that family member. They just, those extracurricular activities. We had a child who was in ballet, and they have the little ballet performances. Well, both parents were working and couldn't get off. So they asked me, could I, tape it or whatever. And I did, and I sent it to them on my phone. They were so happy that they were able to watch the video.
So we're also trying to find like a special friend. I remember there was one, I think it was Thanksgiving. I remember Golan had a Thanksgiving thing he was supposed to be performing in when he was still at MJDS, and I was teaching, and my husband was out of town. We couldn't be there. And I asked a friend of our families that was older if she would come. She was so excited. She was so happy. She felt so good, and he was happy, and she was happy. And so sometimes finding it doesn't have to be relative, finding a neighbor or somebody that they're connected to and bringing them in can be a beautiful thing.
The other thing, what Sinai is doing, so if we have this program, so they don't come Sunday morning, so it could be Friday evening for the service to come. So you don't have Sunday morning, if you go, so, they compensate it.
Right.
So in a way, it's not overdone.
Right.
It's part of it.
And I think that's a nice thing about the design.
It is
It's
great.
not-
I think it's great.
And they give them all the dates up front. Yeah. All right, I'm just gonna tell you about a few sample programs that I did at MJDS, just because I have them at the top of my head. That does not mean that they are the best programs or the only programs, but I just thought I'd give you some examples. So in K4, we did Shema pillowcases. So we got pillowcases and we printed on one side of the pillowcase the words to the Shema, and we printed on the other side of the pillowcases the words for Modani. And when the families came in, they colored them in and decorated them. So the reason for this, and it was in Hebrew and English, the reason for this is there's a tradition of before you go to sleep at night saying Shema, which by the way is a one-sentence prayer and a pretty simple one to say. And there's a tradition, and Shema means that we believe that there's one God. And there's a tradition when you wake up in the morning that the first words out of your mouth, and all the Ganami teachers know about Modani, right? Because you probably sung it with Maura Wendy. Yeah. Wendy. Yep. So Modani basically says, thanks God for giving me back my soul so I can start a new day. It's a wonderful idea to start your day with gratitude. And so the idea is that you're supposed to say that first thing in the morning. So the idea is that when they go to sleep at night, they got the Shema and then turn it over in the morning and say Modani. It was a great program because saying bedtime Shema is like a very cool parent-child thing to do with little kids. There's a beautiful story that goes back to the Holocaust. During the Holocaust, a lot of parents sent their kids to monasteries and convents and whatever to hide them, to keep them safe from the Nazis. And after the war ended, a lot of those parents didn't survive. And so you had all these Jewish kids living in these Catholic places. And in some cases, the church did not want to give these kids up. The parents didn't come back. And there was this rabbi who went all over Europe trying to get these Jewish kids out of the monasteries to take them to Israel to give them Jewish families. And in one of the cases, one of the monasteries, he knew that there were Jewish kids there, and they wouldn't let him in. They kept saying, no, we don't have any Jewish kids, we don't have Jewish kids. And after going back day after day after day, the rabbi said, okay, can I just have 5 minutes with them at bedtime? Let me do that, and after that, I promise I'll leave you alone. They said, fine. And he walked in, this room full of kids and all these bunk beds, and he said, Shema Yisrael. And the Jewish kids all started calling out, Mommy, Mommy. And so then he knew the Jewish kids were, because even though they hadn't seen their parents in 4 or 5 years, that memory of Shema at bedtime was still in them. Oh, goosebumps. Anyway, so that's K4. K5, we did a Havdalah program. And again, these all tied into what they were learning at school. So what did we do? We made spice boxes. We got little pieces of styrofoam and the kids stuck cloves in them to make a spice box. And they braided Havdalah candles out of beeswax, and they decorated Kiddush cups to use for that. And in the week leading up to the program, the teacher made star-shaped cookies with them. They each got 3-star cookies because they had 3 stars in the skies when you do Havdalah. And I think we had a story, a book that I had made up about Havdalah that they illustrated. It's a fun program. But we ended up by doing Havdalah. First grade was a whole Passover program that was very fun. We had 4 stations. Stations is another way to do family education programs. So the parents and kids went around together. Let's see if I can remember. They were connected to the 4 different names of Passover. At one of them, they made charoset, that's the apples and nuts and cinnamon. At one of them, they played a tic-tac-toe game, but they had to know which things were chametz, the things you don't have on Passover, and which ones were okay for Passover and which not and stuff. One of them was about it being a spring holiday, and they made tissue paper flowers. But I think until last year, I still had something sitting in the house.
I remember that program.
And the other one was very fun. They were experienced slavery in Egypt, and we had the Shinshanim dress up as Egyptian taskmasters, and they made them like move those toy bricks from one side to the other. That was a very fun program. Second grade, do they still do the houses in second grade?
Yes.
Okay, so second grade at MJDS, they have a project where the kids create a community in their classroom, and they make houses out of refrigerator boxes. It's actually it's a very
cool. And I will tell you that my
8th
grader, when we just moved last year out of Brown Deer, we just threw away that house.
And it's a very fun thing. But after they've done their whole community project, we come together and they've studied about the mezuzah, and they make, as a family, they make clay mezuzot that they get to take home, but then we also make paper mezuzot that they go and we do the ceremony for hanging up a mezuzah in their little refrigerator houses. That's fun. I miss this. I gotta tell you, I miss this.
I'm kind of excited that they're gonna be home with Tali.
Third grade was tzedakah, and we did an activity about Maimonides' levels of tzedakah. Is a ladder of tzedakah to say which is the best. The highest level of tzedakah is giving somebody a job because they become self-sufficient. Second highest is it's totally anonymous. You know, you're giving to the person doesn't know they're getting. And they have a whole list of different kinds. And then we would make sandwiches that would be donated to one of the local places, kitchens. Fourth grade, we had the kids do a family tree, which was a really good one, talking about stuff, and that ended up with a Tu B'Shvat Seder together. Fifth grade, they made challah boards. So in class, they had been making with their teacher, they had been embroidering challah covers. And then together we made these challah boards, you know, you sliced them, they decorated those. And we also connected that to studying the Mishkan, which is the tabernacle in the desert, because they say that now that there's no temple anymore, the Shabbat table becomes like your own personal altar. Sixth grade, I told you about already, the ethical ones. All right, other sample programs, these are not mine. PJ Library has a lot of different family programs. I'm not an expert on them, but there are a lot of them happening. G2, do you guys know about G2? I'm very excited about G2. G2 is a program, what? It's a new program. It's being highlighted this year in Milwaukee by Federation. It was in a few other cities last year. It's grandparents and their fifth or sixth grade grandchildren spending a year doing some learning together and then going to Israel together. So my youngest Golan is going with my father over winter break. I'm very excited about it. So you can ask me more about it at the end of the year. I don't have better information, but it's very family camp. We talked about that already. I think a lot of different camps are family camps, very powerful. Family trips to Israel. A lot of people arrange, you know, family tours to Israel, very powerful. And public space music we talked about, right? Like Home Depot, menorahs, and things. All right, I have talked way too much tonight, and I really don't like to talk so much when I can teach. I want us to, got about 45 minutes left. We are going to first plan a program together. Our whole group, we're going to pick topics and go through and think about how it would be to plan a program. And then I want you to break up into small groups and try and plan one yourself. Neither this one we're doing together or the ones you're doing in a small group have to be ones you actually would do, just to try and explore planning one. The homework for this class, which I will send you tomorrow, is to try and plan a program. It could be one that you're going to do. It could be, you know, just one you're creating for fun. It could be the ones you're planning because you have one coming up. It could be just for a classroom. It could be for a whole school, whatever. All right, so we're planning one together. What do you think? What audience should we be talking to? I don't know who it's for before we do it. For grandparents and what? Parents and grandparents and kids. What setting? Are we in a day school, a supplementary school, a preschool?
Sunday school.
Okay. Grandparents, kids. Sunday school, what grades? Is it the whole school? Is it just a grade? We have Sunday school, that's the setting. What do you think? What age, guys?
K5.
All right, that's good, because we got a lot of preschool here, so that's good. Are we okay with this? Okay. All right, now we need a topic. This could be anything. This is just Shabbat. Shabbat. Thank you. Okay, so what is our goal? Now we really have to think for a minute. What is it we want to achieve by doing a intergenerational program about Shabbat? That's our goal, or that's going to be a live project?
Rituals, I mean, I'm not sure if I understand the question. What are we?
Why are we bringing them in? What's our purpose? What do we want them to?
We could have them make a challah board.
That's an activity.
That's an activity.
What's our goal?
Maybe the goal is for them to come to the synagogue and participate as a community.
Okay, so we want them to come and participate. You mean come on Shabbat? You want this to lead to them coming on Shabbat? Okay, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say ways to celebrate in the home.
Okay.
Well, to strengthen or deepen the relationship between child, family, and Shabbat.
I like that. You like that? Because that could be the synagogue or the. Okay. Deepen, I'm saying the wrong square. Deepen the relationship between adults, kids. I'm sorry, I have a different kind of keyboard at work. Okay. So now we're going to be objectives. Okay, what the activities that will do what? What do we want to achieve from the activities? Not what the activities are, but when they come out of here, they're going to be able to, or they're going to know, or they're going to.
They'll have a copy of the blessings or prayers that
Okay.
children will recite.
So no blessings and what they're for.
And when to say them.
Or and when to say them. Good. Do we have any other objectives? If we wanted to deepen the relationship, we want more than the blessings. How are we going to deepen that relationship?
Yeah, having some word experience, like how you honor Shabbat, if you're holy, or that they holy, if you're talking about deepening, when we say the importance of it, there's the significance of it.
We want them in some ways to experience. Let's say joy, holiness, specialness, take your pick, right?
I wanted to together. Because the grandparents are coming, maybe they can bring an object of Shabbat that they get from their
Okay,
parents.
we're gonna talk about the activities. This is still the goal, but that's a really good idea for an activity. This is good. We don't wanna have too many. All right, so now let's think about our overview. Like overall, what's the day gonna look like? We can get into the specific activities in a minute, but one of them might be an object from home, okay? Family, Jewish object, Jewish, or maybe family Shabbat object. Sharing, okay? What else do we think it's gonna include?
Actually doing the blessings together.
Okay, so doing the blessings together.
Maybe a memory too, not just an object, but maybe a memory.
And hopefully that connects in, right? They're often related. Good. Maybe we're gonna make something, make a Shabbat object. Right. Some kind of Shabbat object, we can talk about what it's gonna be, but something that they can then take home and use to do Shabbat. All right, good. All right. So what's our opening? What's our icebreaker to get people together?
You can sit in a circle, say their name, what they do, and what's something special they do on Shabbat. Have the children introduce the grandparents, or the grandparents introduce the children and say something special about one another.
And the one they do.
Adults and children. Yeah. Introduce one another. And so I like that, say something special about it. That is so nice. We don't do that enough, right? We don't do that enough. Like maybe, hopefully we say special things about the kids, right? We hopefully are telling them all the time how much we love them and how wonderful they are. But how often do we have kids publicly say something that they value about the adult that they value? It's really nice. All right. So now I gotta think about what the activities are. I think I'm not gonna worry about timing right now, just because we didn't even define how long our session is. But, so what are some of the things? So we said we want to have the object sharing. We said we want them to. that what you wanna make? You wanna make a challah cover?
Sure.
Okay, so is that gonna be the first thing you do?
Well, the first would be the icebreaker.
So what's after the iceberg?
Oh.
Maybe a story. Nice. How do you want to do the story? You want to just read the story, or you want to do something different else?
Just read the story.
Well, why don't we read the story and then share the family object? And then make a challah cover. And then say blessings using a home.
Yeah. Hold on, share family object. Are they sharing the family object or memory with just their kid, or are they be doing it with a large group? The whole group?
Either, I was gonna say either large group or split
Maybe
the larger
small
group
groups.
into small groups.
I like that.
And then do it within the small groups.
What if for the story, you had the adults reading it to the kid? Like you had to break out and around the room and had multiple copies of the books, and so you had the adult reading the story to the kids. So there's our cover. All right, what are we making the challah cover out of?
Well,
Just, and how are they decorating it? Markers.
Stencils.
Stencils.
A needle and thread.
A needle and thread with K fibers?
No.
Can you
Jewels
glue all the
Tenke glue.
Jewels.
stuff?
Tacky, how do you spell tacky? Tacky.
Yes.
And then they're having one too.
Yeah.
And then next, are we gonna go through the Shabbat ritual? Alright, if I was doing this, what I would suggest is that in class, the weeks before, kids will have already decorated a Kiddush cup and maybe made challah that they're gonna then, or made candlesticks, so maybe using seriously, candlesticks, Kiddush.
If you go that route, you can use the book, the Shabbat box.
Made
Right.
kids.
Prior.
there's another picture that I have, that's about challah, and it had like the recipe at the back of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a more, it's a smaller one.
it might be, yeah. We use that recently. We just like make copies of the back.
All right, what's our closing? Is that our closing?
I think that's our closing.
That might be our closing. Okay. So what's our take home? What are we sending them home with that they can use?
All of the blessings.
All the Shabbat symbols. Okay.
What's not they made? They make it like Shabbat hooks.
They made, and all the blessings, right?
And this deeper relationship between kids
They're
and
gonna take that
adults
home.
and Shabbat.
Maybe of the blessings on paper, but also video links, so that they can see a video of how to sing it, how to say it, whenever. What are you saying, you're taking home, Karen, say that again?
They're gonna take home a deeper relationship between each other and with Shabbat. About Shabbat. Tying it back to our goals.
So I love all this, I really love all this. Here's what's missing to me. I have a book, like literally right here, I can show it to you, I'm taking with me to Israel to read. It's a really good book, so that's why I'm bringing it upstairs. It's called 24/6. It's a book that just came out by a woman named Tiffany Schlein, who I heard speak this past year. It's called 24/6, The Power of Unplugging One Day a Week. And she's not just suggesting this for Jews. She's saying that everybody, whether they're Jewish or not, could do with 1 day a week of unplugging, of not, being stuck with their phone and their computer and whatever. This woman is not an observant Jew, but she made a commitment to this and started doing it with her family a couple of years ago. She was a really interesting speaker. I think that it would be really neat to get in here somehow, the value of this Shabbat time, however they're marking it in their family, being an unplugged time. I don't know how it fits in. Maybe it's an article that they take home about the value of unplugging.
Maybe, where did we do the schedule? Maybe before icebreaker, we tell people to put all of their
phone basket on the
phone basket.
And then we talk about why, but before the icebreaker.
Before the icebreaker.
And just say like 2
As a
sentences.
Very, very.
This is a, sacred space or sacred time and space.
I think last year, didn't you show us like a cell phone sleeping bag kind of thing that
Yeah.
had made?
Yeah, I don't remember where it was, but I do remember talking about that.
Those were kind of neat, just to like intentionally tuck your phone away.
Yeah. Okay, and so, but maybe that's also what the take home, like an article about unplugging. Okay. What did that take us, like 10 minutes? And we just came up with a really beautiful program. Isn't that amazing? So I would like you to group up. We've got a half hour. So I'd like to take like 15 minutes, find a small group of people who teach in a comparable setting to you, and come up with a program. I'm telling you now, whatever you come up with your small group, that can't be your homework. You gotta come up with something else. But find a group to work with, and I have planners for you. It does not have to be something you're actually gonna do, Maggie. Okay, you can get up and move, you don't have to do this sitting where you are. So we'll take about 15 minutes, come up with that, and then we'll come back together and share with you.
I'll come here.
Okay, I'm so tired. This will wake you up when we go back.
Audience, her parents or
If this is her second. And so
So what's the big idea?
So
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a few minutes and share with each other. And if you would like, would you guys like to have a copy of what everybody else wrote?
Oh my God.
All right, so here's what I'm gonna suggest to you. I don't know the way.
Assignment to rewrite.
No. If you want to, I'm not making a shirt. If you want to put your name on it, that way if I can't read what you wrote, I will ask you. But then I can put them all together and share them with you. Can share them with each other. Anybody who doesn't want to share the room, for some reason you don't have. But if you want to, I will put it together. All right. But who would like to give us kind of the broad strokes of what they came up with? Shelley, will start.
Okay. We talked about our audience, parents, and grandparents, 3-year-old, the children are 3-year-olds. The setting, childcare. Our topic, Rosh Hashanah. I'm still learning the holidays. Sure. The goal, have the children and adults bring in the new year together. Objectives, learn the smells, sounds, and tastes of the holiday. Overview, sounds, hear the shofar. Taste the sweet new year through honey and apples. See the different activities at temple, home, and school. Opener, icebreaker, have the children and adults introduce each other and have them say something special about one another. Have them listen to a real shofar, which opens up the new year. Then for our lesson, the icebreaker, story about Rosh Hashanah, and I couldn't think of the exact story, but it's about somebody's red engine, and we read it to kids. So read that story, and from there, make train boxes, and then make different items to go in the boxes, such as shofars out of paper plates, and lace it so they can practice lacing. Paint with apple, do apple prints, and look at the star inside the apple. Paint toilet paper rolls yellow and stack them to make a beehive. And put yellow tissue paper inside of it for honey. And make bees.
And put it in the box.
And put it in the box.
Go on to Israel on the train.
Yeah.
That's all your stuff.
I want to be in your class.
I think this must be a long class period though.
It's a lot to be very long.
They can pick which activity they want to do.
We pick up stations,
Yeah.
and then we all put it together in the train, and we're all gonna take what we made to Israel.
So it's a train that goes over the ocean?
That's right.
Trains can go over the ocean, who knows?
And then for the closing, we said sing the Rosh Hashanah song, eat apples dipped in honey, and hear the shofar. And then the take home learning, take everything home and print out the words to the song. For the Rosh Hashanah songs that the parents or grandparents can learn the words.
That's awesome, let's hear it for them.
What's the Rosh Hashanah song?
I can't think right now. I'm sure Wendy can help.
Right, because I'm singing the African version, it's after an African song. So I'm always singing the African version.
Oh my goodness.
You've got us curious.
That's really nice. You have to give us the song.
All right, you guys want to go next?
Oh, I'm gonna read it? Okay. So our audience is parents, grandparents, and we said the kids would be like 4-year-olds. And the setting would be like an early child care center. We did tzedakah for our topic. The goal was the significance of tzedakah and how families can give back to the community. Objectives, like ways to give back to the community and how you can encourage others to join in your mission to give back to the community. The overview, like ways families can put into action the principles of tzedakah in everyday living. Opening would be to introduce themselves, like have you in the past done any charity work, volunteer work, etc. Lesson would read a story like in small groups about tzedakah. They can make and decorate a tzedakah box. And then have like flyers of different organizations in need of funds or volunteer work. And then for closing, we thought we could go around the room and say like what we were thankful for and also like say a blessing. And then to take home like learning, you could take home the tzedakah box. So they could pick out an organization to donate the tzedakah box to, or one to like just volunteer their time to. I did read pretty much.
So we are special friends and kids in a 3-year-old classroom. The setting is a classroom with 3-year-olds, and it is happening Saturday night when there are 3 stars in the sky. And our topic is Havdalah.
I was guessing.
Okay. Our goal, so many of the 3-year-olds in our classroom, the parents, don't know what Havdalah is, why do we do it, so it's educating the parents, what is Havdalah and why do we do it? And as well here and at Whitefish Bay, the kids do Havdalah every week. So teaching the parents, hey, why do your kids do this every week? What are they doing every week, right? Objectives, making Havdalah more meaningful for the child, introducing what is Havdalah and why we do it, explain an important reoccurring activity, that your child participates in. Overview, I think I did this one a little bit wrong, but how about what is Havdalah and what are the ritual objects? Opening icebreaker. I like to sing, so we are actually going to work with our kids for weeks before and come up with a new song with hand motions. Okay, so we're going to do that and try to teach the parents a new song with the hand motions for icebreaker. And then we're going to ask a question to the parents. How do you get ready for your week? And listen to what they have to say. And when do you get ready for your week? And is it like a special time? The lesson, so we're going to be making bizomim. So the lesson we're going to do the song. How do you ask the question, make the bizomim, and we're going to do Havdalah together. The closing, we're going to say Shavua Tov, and then we're going to just translate it. What does it mean? And take home. So they're all going to take home the ritual objects and link to a video, the directions, the blessings, and the words to our new song that we made. That's lovely.
So we're gonna do it for special friends. K4 and K5 kids. The topic is gonna be Tikkun Olam, and with like a Tu B'Shvat kind of thing to it also.
Comparing the world, and we said preschool setting in the beginning, but then as we were talking, we thought maybe it would be cool to do in a retirement home and have it be done as a special friend, a child, and an adopt as well as a friend, a resident.
So the goal would be building a relationship between the young child and the resident, and also talking about repairing the world and, you know, their ideas about it. Sharing memories.
We said the overview would be an understanding and meaning of Tikkun Olam. And then the objectives would be a Tu B'Shvat story and planting 2 plants together, and decorating the pots.
So we will do an icebreaker, having them introduce themselves to each other and talking about their favorite Tu B'Shvat memory.
And then we said a story about the holiday, plant decorate, and then just a physical connection with the child and the residents as well. And then we said the taking home would also be like, you could plant something like parsley and then have it for Passover, but we were saying that 2, so that 1 stays at the home and 1 goes home with the child.
Very nice. Thank you. It's not complete.
It's okay, give us what you got.
But yeah, we had another plan, change our mind, but so the kids about tzedakah, and the goal is to the kids to understand that each have something to give. It could be the audience will be family and kids, doesn't matter who comes, and setting in the synagogue program, and so we just went with Tu B'Shvat, and So if it's too much bad, so they need to understand also the difference about the temperature in Israel and United States. And understand that here we can plant outside, so we can plant in, in a container, put some seed in, and maybe later when it's grown, we can put it outside in a better weather. The opening icebreaker will be a game of name of trees. So each one needs to say the name of the tree, and the last letter of the other one give another one. Something funny. In the lesson we said the icebreaker, then the story. The other thing was about understanding when we plant a tree, we are taking care of the next generation at the same time. So after the icebreaker will be the story of the cow tree, about the man going to sleep, and okay. After that, it's the planting seed in the container, and then maybe collecting money to plant trees in Israel, and watching a video how is the kids are planting in Israel, and maybe if there's time, making tzedakah box or send it home to decorate it home. With that, you're sending with the kids instruction how to take care of the seed too, and the blessing over the trees. Love it.
Say acharon acharon chaliv. The last one is the sweetest.
We didn't get very far.
Okay, give us what you got.
We were gonna do second grade synagogue, grandparents and parents, topic of Hanukkah, because they learned that children and it was to, and it was to increase the understanding of the history of Hanukkah as well as the traditions, one of the time. And we really just got as far as like the icebreaker, having each in circle, having each family member share a memory because we had different, generational. And then we just told the story of Hanukkah and make going around as far as we got.
Terrific, thank you. If you would like to share it and you want me to type it up, you can leave it with me. If not, don't worry about it. I will send you tomorrow the evaluation and the homework assignment. I don't know that I will get these typed up before I leave for Israel, but when I get back, I will send them out to you so you will have them. And I want to thank you for your time and spending 2 hours with us. There are flyers about our upcoming classes. There's a list of all the LOMED classes. We are starting lunch and learn. We're going to do 2 at Ganami and Mequon. We're going to do 2 in Ganami here, and we're going to do 2 at the Friendship Circle Cafe. They're all going to be from 1 to 2 in the afternoon. Topics are there. There's about 1 month-ish. And it'll be 1 LOMED credit. It's so, yeah.
Which is brown bag, can we bring a brown bag lunch to the?
Not to Friendship Circle. You can bring it into.
But into the JCC?
Yeah, because we're gonna use a room upstairs, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Thank you for coming.